I'm a nerd.
Nerds.
Nerds.
Nerds!
I'm not kissing a nerd.
What is a nerd?
Nerd! Holy crap, are we nerdy?
Welcome, Nerdables, episode 122. This week we're going to talk about Reed Pop's tracking the change in pop culture cons. Flash Supergirl crossover is happening. Marvel and Mattel are talking a merger. Zack Snyder's pleading with Superman fans to accept his version of it and that he's not wrong.
Pleading is a strong word.
William Shatner wants to play Old Bill. Marvel doubles DC's in DC Comics in October, and PlayStation now sells Xbox.
What?
Yeah. Anybody want to talk about which one you want to talk about first? Xbox talks.
We should probably save the game
For
and other
Sebastian?
one. Yeah, Sebastian isn't here at the moment. It's Super Bowl Sunday, and
There's traffic.
there's traffic, so he isn't here yet. He comes far away to
Far
come
away,
visit
way.
us. Or we could just start yelling at each other. Do that too.
Hey, that seems to work though.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just go right with because he doesn't watch Supergirl, Flash.
What? He doesn't watch TV?
So
There are programs on TV Sebastian doesn't watch?
at the beginning, when Supergirl was being tossed around, which sounds really fun, everybody kept saying, "Is
Creepy
there going
alert,
to be
creepy alert, creepy alert.
Is there going to be a Flash Supergirl crossover?" They kept saying yes, no, because it
Well,
is
they
the
even
same
talked-
production company.
Well, they
talked
open
about
themselves
with-
to the possibility.
Right. And it's two different networks, so they got to coordinate all of that. And now, apparently, it is happening, and the date is going to be March 28th. Grant Gustin got his script and put it up on eBay, or no, on eBay. He put it up.
Is he hurting for money? Homeboy is the star of a very successful TV show. Guys, can I have a couple extra scripts? I got to sell them on eBay. I got to put them up for auction.
Spoiler alert. You guys don't pay me enough.
He put the cover of it up on Twitter.
There we go.
And the
Twitter and eBay, two very different sites.
completely. But did you notice the cover, the logo for Supergirl, is the old 70s, 80s logo for Superman, Supergirl. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's happening. Now, the question is it going... And the episode is called When Worlds Collide.
I can answer your question.
Is it a
It's parallel universe.
parallel universe?
Obviously, next week, if you've been following the show next week, Flash and his friends will go to Earth 2, and the kind
I
of...
haven't watched this week's episode, damn it.
well,
Spoiler for me.
no, it doesn't spoil what's happening in the
yeah.
episode.
The
Events,
advertisements.
it's just kind of events lead to the thing. But the kind of rampant rumor-ish that I can sort of confirm, but not officially
DC
confirm.
kind of made
Well, no, I can confirm, but not actually confirm that.
through the grapevine.
Sure, on his way back,
Yes.
it's going to be a popping situation.
Right.
He's not going to make it straight back.
Which would be funny if he popped into like,
Well,
like-
it's
like into
we've
the-
seen that there's they've seen Earth 2 and they've seen wherever they dropped off Grodd. So they've said there's more
Earth
than two.
Well, Earth
Yeah.
2 is where Grodd is. He's on.
Did they drop him in Earth? I
Yeah,
thought they
because
dropped him in a different one.
There's 52 anomalies that lead to Earth 2,
Right. Well, then there's going to be more universes.
and Grodd is
Supergirl's
on,
not on Earth 2,
right,
so
which kind of sucks.
it'll
Now-
be the
He'll come back in Earth X, and it'll be Man in the High Castle. And
it
that's
may
all.
Well, because
it may be along the lines of just quick glimpses of some of the more popular alternate Earths. I think they are also opening the possibility of doing JSA.
yeah,
Obviously, that exists in Earth 2, but they could make it its own Earth where time goes a little bit differently, and they could drop them in the 40s. It just opens up their story possibilities,
well, and that also
and it also gives them a chance to do this crossover. So
and it gives them an out for the movie. Because
Yeah,
they said
in a way.
because they said with the and they said this with just recently about the movies is that the DC universe is it has a multiverse, and as movie franchises this is a great thing for us because it doesn't contradict anything for itself.
yeah, well, that's the creation of the multiverse. Was we don't want to contradict ourselves. Because remember that time when Batman used to shoot people with a gun? That still counts, right? No, but it
Because in Legends of Tomorrow, they've already mentioned that there's a Dark Knight that's fallen and a Man of Steel fallen. And that's how they worded it. So there is a reference to it within the Arrow Flash
I'm the
Legends
only
of
one that
Tomorrow.
wasn't excited by Legends of Tomorrow.
I haven't watched the last 2 episodes because
There's
I
only
watched
been
I watched the
Starting
first
behind.
half of the first episode,
I watched the first
And it-
episode,
and I didn't turn it off because I was like, oh, this is stupid. I turned it off because I had to go to sleep. 'Cause I
Yeah.
had to wake up at 5 in the morning. But I still I got halfway through. I'm like, okay.
It's getting better.
I don't. My problem isn't, I guess, because to go off on a tangent, they haven't explained it yet, and I don't know if they will. But if you have the ability to go pretty much anywhere in time to choose the warriors that are going to take down what is supposedly the supervillain of this earth, really, 2016? That's where you pick.
All of them.
And the fact this is kind of my biggest problem with it. I explained this to you at lunch yesterday.
Yes.
Is Hawkman and Hawkgirl, the two Hawkgirl, which sounds like Hot Girl. Whenever
Hot
I say
girl.
it.
I'm surprised there isn't a
Hawkgirl.
superhero hot girl.
Wasn't
Like,
there one on
I'm sure,
Ecstatics?
I'm sure there is
There
one.
was You
yeah.
Go Girl on Ecstatics, but anyway. They're the two most important members of the team because by prophecy they're the only people that can deliver the killing blow that ends Vandal Savage once and for all. Why do you choose a Hawk Girl who has just recently awakened and has no idea what she's doing?
Oh, wait till you get to episode 3. Then you're going in for or episode 2. Yes.
But it's a reincarnation. I mean, what are you gonna?
But that's the thing. Well, go back
Well,
and
you can
pick.
go
Yeah,
into
You go
it.
back to
go
a
pick, pick it
time
at any
period.
point.
That's true.
Go pick her up in 2000 BC in Egypt, where she really knows how to kick ass.
And
I don't know.
Vandal
It's-
Savage
but
isn't as
but,
strong.
but Rip has already seen. Well, she dies, so she's obviously not strong enough. Like
Yeah, but-
reincarnation.
But you can you're starting from a different point. If you're starting at, if you're starting at the 95-yard line, 95-yard line, the 5-yard line to get to the end zone instead of starting at the 50.
No, I know.
To me, she's starting at the 50 right now because you're like, she's not, she's
See,
not
now that we're
super
in the
powerful
50th
there.
anniversary
Yeah.
of Super Bowl, next year it's going to be twice as big.
No, next year it's going to be XXLF
Next year it's not
X2.
going to matter because
You notice they got rid of that, right? It's
No,
just now
it's all-
50.
It's just this year.
Yeah,
because it's
This is
just
the only
L.
year they're doing it.
right. It's
L-
just L.
Yeah,
L on
because it
there.
was a single. They actually said it was because it's a single letter.
Yeah.
They're just not getting. They're
See, you're talking about Hawk Girl and Hawkman, which it does sound like Hawk Girl. Wait till you get past those first 2 episodes and see where the team is now with that. You'll be even more confused
Yeah.
to what
Yeah,
you're
I'll get
saying.
to that. It's only.
But you need to get caught up by episode 6 because there is going to be a introduction of something that needs to be that you don't want to be.
Don't tell me what I need to do.
All right,
I still have
it'll
to
get
figure out
spoiled
where
for
I
you.
can find the
I guarantee
stupid
it'll get
first
spoiled.
episode of X Files because the football
still
screwed
haven't
up my
watched it
DVR.
yet?
Well, the first episode isn't on my DVR because of
Yeah.
football.
Yeah.
I
I
got
took like an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes after and I got maybe 10 minutes of the thing.
I think I might have got half of it.
Yeah, so I gotta find. I'm sure it's on the My Fox app or whatever.
Oh,
Fox
I
Home,
have it on Cody.
Whatever.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
the jailbreak thing.
All
He
the illegal
names
stuff.
all his
that-
devices.
No,
so,
that's
you know.
what it's actually
There's
called,
Alexa,
bitch.
There's Cody. There's
Well, apparently he named you
Jimmy
bitch
Choo.
right there. Did you say Jimmy Choo?
Jimmy Choo. Yeah,
Is he watching Sex in the
Shoes?
City all the time?
sure.
All right.
It's
Anyway,
nothing
yes,
but
it's all the illegal stuff that Rich has to use to watch really, really, really crappy movies instead of
Going and seeing him 100 million times,
yeah,
even though I do that anyways.
yeah. Because the two choices I've seen you with, I have all of these illegal movies, and I watched a terrible remake of Vacation and Pixels.
And
Oh,
Guardians
you
of the
watch
Galaxy.
Pixels?
He watched Pixels.
I watched.
I
Pixels.
well, I took my niece and nephew. To
You took
Pixels
your niece and
because I
nephew.
sort of
I'll give
also
you that.
wanted to see it.
That I won't give you.
Hey, Mikey.
It was horrible.
You been playing Space Invaders? Because you're invading my space.
Wow.
I no longer
That's-
want to be.
And on that note,
Yeah,
I'm
I-
done.
That's one of the jokes Adam Sandler says.
No. That's one of the things he says. That is not a joke.
There's a difference.
That is a line in the film. It is not a joke.
Okay, so this crossover. We've seen crossovers with
I can't wait till they fight.
Really?
It's got to be a hero versus hero. It's classic. Everybody always fights, right?
Supergirl and
Yeah.
Flash.
What do you think of
Supergirl kills him. She just straight up murders him.
What do you-
Flash
the
has
whole-
been canceled.
What do you
Burns the
think
hole
about
right through?
what do you think about Welling wanting to come back and do the Superman from Smallville for Supergirl?
I think we touched
No,
on it a
no.
little bit last week, but
Did we touch a little bit on it?
we did.
We did.
Yeah.
I don't remember touching
They-
on it.
well,
All I
did
remember is
we?
arguing.
Yeah, I remember screaming
Nobody's
at each
ever
other.
This goes back
Nobody's
to the
asked
fact
about
that
it.
Rich doesn't listen to anything that I say. So I did mention last week that Tom Welling said he expressed interest.
Wait.
in playing.
This table's made out of wood. Let's get rid of it because it's on fire right now. It's hot in here.
It is actually really cool.
They haven't asked him though, so
No, but he's expressed interest.
yeah, he has.
So
They
is he
haven't asked
just
him, but he
playing
said-
Superman, or is he playing the Smallville Superman in Supergirl? Which, if it doesn't make any sense, because why would they be so impressed by Supergirl when it's a world that had the JSA in the middle of it?
Well, no.
I
but
mean, if he
it's
just
not
plays
really.
the character, kind of like the way they've used Dean Cain and Helen Slater as nods to previous roles, but not their roles.
Well, they're already going to have a young Kal-El in it in the next week or two.
He's a baby.
No, he's like a 10 or 11 or 12.
He's a baby.
Well, he
He's
said
just a
that
little baby.
because a lot of people were
Baby
asking
cow.
him if he was gonna, if like he would be open to doing.
Yeah, no,
it.
I had one of those conversations. I said, "Hey, are you going to come back and do Superman? And by the way, could you flip the burger for me right there? Can you get that?" What else has Tom Welling done?
like
He's in
fries
that
with
movie that's
that.
coming out, The Choice.
Hey,
or
Tom,
whatever.
you want to play Superman again? I want a job.
No, he was in a movie. We were sitting here watching. You went,
Yeah.
who is that? That guy looks familiar.
Is he fat now?
And I went, that's
No,
Tom
he's, like,
Welling.
built.
No, it's
he ripped?
The Draft with Kevin Costner.
Oh,
He plays the quarterback.
Wow,
That they're,
do you pick anything good to watch? I'm going to draft a football player.
I watch a lot.
Hey, just give.
Is
him
this
some
heaven?
credit.
No, it's the draft room of the NFL. Dun, 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 dun.
I have a very eclectic taste. When I
Give him
come to
some
No, you
credit.
don't.
It's something different than Guardians.
No
or
taste doesn't
Captain
count as
America.
eclectic taste, dude. Did you hear the night that he was watching Vacation? The
Yeah.
Saturday, yeah. So
Yeah,
when
he
I got
watched
here,
it with me.
oh god.
We watched the end.
And that's where I
We all came
I
up
looked
with
at it
that.
and I said, you know what? I make fun of watching Gardens all the time. I think you should go back to watching Guardians all the time. If this is the other choices you make.
Well, no,
Oh wow,
I
the military invaded Santa Clara.
I watched The Martian on there. So
I still
yeah,
have to see that.
I'm excited about this crossover. I'd be more excited if it was set in the Flash, actual.
I'd be
Earth.
excited if it was a surprise and not known to everybody now.
Surprises. That's
really?
that's
Have
hilarious.
you seen? I mean,
No, I know.
I'm glad it's actually parallel universe because, like I said, I think if it's in the Flash universe, it opens up too many questions because of Superman already being an established character in the Supergirl universe. If they're the same universe, the same world, to me, there's too many questions, and I can't go so far as to suspend the disbelief that Arrow and Flash show up and no one goes, "Oh, hey." They're like that guy in Metropolis that flies around and like beats people up and stuff like that.
well, they've already established Batman exists in this universe.
Not really.
well,
It's a throwaway line.
It was
that
a
doesn't.
very,
It doesn't
very
mean
quick
anything.
thrown away line, but it gives the.
I think that's
implication.
an audience line more than, hey, there is a character in our universe who is the strongest being that anyone has ever seen, and nobody in two shows that is absolutely entrenched in metahumans at any point asks that.
Well, I think they did make a
that
comment one
question.
time about somebody flying in another city, and they also made a reference to
Those throwaway things are very different. Those are audience stuff versus the actual.
because they even
the
made a
actual
reference to
thing
Green
of-
Lantern, and
Again,
they
I
made
think
a
it's-
reference to Hal Jordan being missing.
I think. Hal Jordan.
But they don't
being
mention
missing
him by
some-
name.
Yeah,
They
but it's
say,
also the fact that it's Hal Jordan.
Right.
It's not Green Lantern.
No, they made the comment.
They don't really say, "Hey, there's a guy in Central City or whatever, or Coast City that is making green constructs and does terrible films."
No, they just mentioned that there was a test pilot that's gone
Yeah,
missing.
that part is fine because you're rebuilding your universe.
right.
And our favorite Sebastian is here. And
Welcome,
He's
Sebastian.
brought cookies.
Those
Those may not make
pick
it
a mic.
to-
Pick a mic. Any mic.
One of
Actually,
them
one
works.
of those two.
3 of them don't.
Choose wisely.
You may want to get a chair too. We're gonna just stop this podcast. Right
No,
now.
he can go.
Plus
He just
Sebastian.
grab a chair.
Or you can stand
You
up.
can
Whatever
take it
you
with
want.
you. You
Well, let's see how far these go. Let's see
take
the
it with
effective
you and
range.
give us the commentary the whole way. Okay, so moving on from Flash Supergirl crossover, it looks like there's going to be there's at least talks of a merger between Hasbro and Mattel.
Well, no, there's a rumor of a merger between Hasbro and Mattel.
Well,
No one-
We've talked about this before. Where
We've talked about it as a speculation of, oh, maybe they would do this, maybe they wouldn't, sort of thing. Excuse me, I actually just had a moment of gastro intensity.
But
Let's,
what was
on the
funny?
show.
hold on, wait. Let's see if Sebastian's mic works.
Test 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
You guys can edit the me entering. And
Screw
all
that.
this
We'll
out.
just
No,
leave it.
it's-
That's part of
it's
the
real
realism.
time.
Yes.
Ah.
It's as real as, hey, are we recording from last week?
I just started recording it and we started arguing and it was just
Which-
like
Oh.
fuck it, we'll just leave it.
Which Eric said, he's texting me text message like, "Did you know you were? Is this supposed to be on here? You just come in and you and Rich are screaming at each other."
It was good.
What the hell are you guys screaming about?
No. We'll talk
Steven
about it
Spielberg.
later.
I knew in my head when I was going to
Yeah.
ask. I'm like,
Why am I asking
I'm
this
not-
question?
I'm
It's
gonna-
like, don't ask Bean for clarification on Kevin and Bean. What are you
It's-
arguing about?
It's
We're not
about a
gonna go back-
topic we're not going to discuss this week and even mention
Okay.
this week. So, anyways,
I'll tell you later.
Hasbro, Mattel.
Not going to happen.
There's no way. The two biggest
Uh,
toy companies.
I think no way is too strong, but I would strongly think that
Look,
it can't
There
happen.
there would be a
legally.
lot of government opposition to
Yes,
it.
I don't think legally it would happen. I could see Mattel and Hasbro think
it could
maybe
happen
this might be an idea.
if they do something like umbrella corporations under
They'd have to sell
a
some of their
new
brands.
entity. Yeah, some brands.
do you think DC would let it happen? Because
they have no say? They
because
get no
they're
choice.
because where are they going to go to have their toy
and they
lines?
just get somebody else to manufacture.
Yeah, there's
their
other toy manufacturers out there.
Yeah.
More than likely, the scenario that this would have to be is that Hasbro sells some of their properties.
Right.
They
yes.
I could see them sell GI Joe.
So you think
Just like
you
we
think
sell
the
G.I. Joe.
Disney-owned properties might be gone from them?
No. I don't think they'd move the Disney properties. It opens a big box of speculation that really is it's fun to talk about, but it really means absolutely nothing
Well, 'cause
until
see, here's the
something
thing.
happens.
When
But hold on, because the first thing that everybody said is whether the comments that I'm reading on this article that were online, every comment wasn't, "Oh, Hasbro and Mattel are going to merge." It was, "I don't understand why Disney doesn't buy Hasbro. I don't understand why Disney just doesn't buy Hasbro. Why doesn't Disney own
that was
Hasbro?"
the thing I said, yeah.
I know, and it was just like that
That's
has
not even
nothing to
part
do
of
with
this
this.
deal, but yeah.
The whole point is the two biggest toy manufacturers that are left. Really, the only two toy manufacturers, if you go to a store, that have multiple brands
Well, you
Right.
have,
that don't
you
just.
have Toy Biz, BMC.
Yeah,
But
there's
there's
nothing-
There's
nothing
there
big.
are smaller companies, and small is
Relative.
yes, relative
Yes.
term to the two big. I mean, because Bandai is still out there.
Yeah, and
So
you
there's
have
a lot of
who the
companies.
hell makes Monster High?
Mattel.
Mattel.
Mattel does it. So yeah,
Yeah.
you
But
have
when
the two biggest girl brands in Mattel and Barbie, and Barbie and Monster High are
Ever
one
After,
company,
They're all one company.
and everything else is
which
Disney
is
related,
basically
which is Hasbro.
superheroes and
but see,
Yeah,
Disney,
all your
but
women's
Disney
brands.
makes all of the taller. Oh no, excuse me. Mattel makes all of the taller Disney dolls, like the Barbie size.
for
Right.
now.
So, I think the only thing they don't make is like the Bratz dolls and some of those
Yeah,
other
Bratz
things.
is probably that's what I'm saying. Every other toy company has like a single brand,
Right.
and that's it. Hasbro has multiple.
Well, you also look at their,
Mattel
not only do
has
they
hun-
have
has
not only do they
multiple.
have like the toys, they have the board games. They have they have what they have their own Mattel
Lego's
has
the only
Mega
other thing that
Bloks.
you
they
think
have the
of.
mega blocks. Yeah, the big obstacle for it is the
Antitrust law.
yeah
Yes.
exactly. It was I want
And we've
specifically
seen,
antitrust laws, but basically the way that the government tends to protect, for the most part, again,
Which I still don't understand how the FCC is involved with this.
because there's a lot of marketing that goes.
it's trade. And
They're,
marketing.
Yeah, that's true.
they're
Yeah, it's the FCC and the FTC would be the ones that will first bring this to Congress, and
Congress,
say
and then
this doesn't work. We've seen this with cable companies.
yeah,
we
they
saw
would
this
have to-
happen
they
with
there would be
what was it?
inquiries.
It was
T-Mobile and
T-Mobile and AT&T.
AT&T.
yeah.
But we
was,
saw
was the
this-
last really big one. But
there was wasn't there a
Time
cable
Warner,
one with Time Warner
and Comcast.
Yeah, and there's there's no way.
We saw
have
this
to,
with
you have to give competition.
with XM and Sirius.
Right.
And this went before the FCC, went before Congress and everything, and they kept saying, no, this is monopoly. You are the only two
out there,
satellite.
and then it'll
it's
just
like,
be the one.
and it's like, well, it doesn't matter because we're just a radio station like everybody else, except for it's a pay radio station.
Right. I mean, and again, they will have to bring their case as to why it would be good or bad for business. But the big thing is cornering the market and becoming a monopoly.
But that, as the
government,
XM,
for the most part, does its best to prevent a lot of Mabel.
Yeah, competition.
They want to protect competition.
They want to at least protect competition if they don't necessarily encourage it in a way that
right.
well, it's
you know,
to keep the
it's-
monopoly happening, so that way you don't have a single entity saying this is what you
Right.
have and setting
Mabel
the
with
market
the phone
price.
companies, they broke that up into many, many smaller companies, and now it's slowly starting to merge again because landlines are
Yeah,
a thing
don't
of the
exist.
past, despite their necessity for things like emergency situations where the landlines don't get tied up and that's going to be weird in California when the big one happens again and everyone's cell phones won't work because of all the lines tied up. But that's a tangent.
Those fake trees don't fall down. I don't know what you're talking about.
Is there anyone here that would see a benefit for this?
No.
Sure. I mean, there are.
Oh, wait, do you mean from a consumer point of view?
Yeah.
No.
There's nothing as a consumer.
A consumer point of view, there are some things, and there are others as like larger manufacturing, maybe but I mean, there's a pipe dream of potential benefits, but
Yes,
do
the
they
Transformers He-Man crossover.
Yeah, do they outweigh the cons that until it happens has to be seen? Because again, we talk about this with video games, a lot of anti-consumer practices. What ends up being cheaper usually wins out over what ends up being better for the consumer.
Exactly.
And
the only recourse you have as a competitor is this is what Marauder, as a very small company, did to combat the lack of G.I. Joe toys. Is they made their own figures. They did it as a Kickstarter, and they're currently selling them on their website. But they made a direct opposition to the 3 3/4 modern military figure that does not exist on the shelves, except for G.I. Joe, which is very hard to find, exclusive to a single store, is not sold online, yada, yada, yada. Marauder said, we're going to take a different approach to this. So I've never understood, if DC's licensors were really smart, they'd be like, you know what? If Hasbro's coming down and going, we're going to make Marvel Universe figures, and they're going to be 3 3/4, and they're going to be crap, and we're still going to sell them for $12, why wouldn't DC's licensors say, we're going to make what the Marvel 3 3/4 figures used to be? They're going to be more expensive, but we'll make a limited number. We'll do Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Joker, Lex, Darkseid. Just start with 6 characters, super articulated, as much accessories as you can give them.
You're talking like the
put
Black
them out.
Line.
Yeah, and then look at the success of that. That packaging is out of control.
Do
Terrible.
you think that...
And that's the other. You mentioned it briefly, and I have a same problem. Not so much with action figures, but because a lot of businesses are trying to hold on to the old. I wish I could switch on my business brain. I should have switched it on 10 minutes ago. I was stuck in traffic to talk about this. But the bigger issue that I tend to have with anti-consumer practices with a lot of these companies is that they're trying to hang on to really old business models. The store model is slowly disappearing because the internet is the juggernaut you cannot crush. It's nice to go into a store and be like, hey, there's my toy on the shelf. I want to grab that and walk out and have it. But with Amazon one-day shipping, I mean...
But Amazon's also realizing this with their bookstores that they're opening.
Yes, but they did a small pop-up store in New York for Christmas last year. But you have to remember, you're getting the same discounts in their store that you get from Amazon.com.
Right.
And if they don't have it, they're going to send it to you with your Prime shipping regardless. It's not like walking into Barnes & Noble and having to pay that ridiculous $40 price for a 200-page paperback. I'm exaggerating prices. But
Barely. That would be a
wait, it's barely an
Barely
example.
an
It's barely an
true.
But you're going to walk into the Amazon bookstore and pay the $9.95 that nobody else can compete with, because if they don't have it in stock in their store, it doesn't matter. They have their Amazon warehouse stock, and they're going to get it to their store or your house regardless.
Right.
They have the stock that bookstores cannot carry because they do not have the monetary resources to do so. But in terms of exclusivity, you mentioned it best. Like, you can only go to one store to get a certain figure. That is absolutely ridiculous and sort of the spearhead for a lot of the anti-consumer things. A lot of people don't have stores like Toys R Us anymore within a decent amount of mileage.
Yeah, but see, you're seeing that with the Black Series too,
Right?
Which became exclusive to Walmart for the 3 3/4.
And the weird part is because even movie studios, because they are so afraid to go 100% digital. And yeah, there's things like Blu-rays are better. You're going to get a higher picture quality, but with something like the way iTunes has compression on their movies, the bit rate is a little bit lower, but the difference, unless you're really looking for it, unless you're pixel peeping, the layman is not going to notice. But, for example, the new James Bond Spectre movie's coming out, but the only store that has special features on the Blu-ray disc is going to be, I believe, Target is the only company going to have any special makings of, commentary tracks.
And that's how
behind the
these stores are
scenes.
competing with things like Amazon.
It's not so much trying to compete with Amazon, because if they were just competing with Amazon, all the stores would have exclusives. But no, it's just Target. So Target is directly competing against Best Buy and Walmart and Kmart, wherever they're selling DVDs, and they're competing against Amazon, and they're competing against Amazon's digital service, iTunes digital service. So there's a lot of old thinking going into. And that's not to say that Blu-ray discs still do outsell digital. Digital is the upstart that is gaining ground very quickly.
Sure, when it comes out a month earlier, people
Digital.
are starting to.
Right, but that was for me. I sort of see that as the way to sort of get a little bit of their money faster because they can't sure up their shipping times quick enough. Even though for the most part, Blu-rays and DVDs, they're made by the time that movie hits theaters. There's a Blu-ray already finished.
Oh yeah,
and being printed at factories in China, and then getting packages designed and getting shipped back over.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready to go, but it's just a matter of getting them to stores.
right.
But and yes, I mean, anti-consumer is a very strong word, but I believe it's now an apt word for the situation we're slowly getting ourselves into. I believe Star Trek,
Even if it's not deliberate.
even if it's not
there, yeah.
deliberate,
I find Hasbro to be very anti-consumer, even if it's not deliberate, because it's all in terms of
yes.
we need to get cheaper product out there for cheaper pricing that people
Right.
still aren't buying.
I've said it before. As easy as it is to put like this big boogeyman face on things or to treat things as being malicious, the truth is a lot of times it's just something being done easier. It's not a cabal, twirling their mustaches, going.
It's bad decision making, but
Yes.
I look at Hasbro and I said, I understand why you would make that decision, and I think you're wrong.
Yes.
And I think the market
Yes.
is, to some degree, has proven
There
it.
is a market
because
out there.
people are trying to find higher articulation. They're willing to pay that $12 price
Right.
point or $13
Which
price
is why
point.
I like Mattel, what they do with their they have their action figure clubs, essentially is what they call it. They
Uh-huh.
call them. They put out a line of comic book based Watchmen action figures a couple of years ago, and you could only get it through their I believe they called it what is it?
Subscription service.
Yeah, they had but they had specific names like there's like Club Eternia,
Club
and
Attorney, and then they just started one for Thundercats.
for Thundercats. They did one for Ghostbusters a couple
It's their
years
DC
ago.
subscription club.
Yeah, they have a DC subscription service,
which is
too.
where the Watchmen fall under.
Right, and I thought that was a very smart move to produce a small number of made-to-order figures using a subscription service versus trying to hit the mass market with everything, and then when stuff fails, they pull back. I would rather see someone like Chris be able to go to Hasbro's website, have a Club G.I. Joe, they get their fancy figures, they pay a little bit more for them, but it's going to the consumers that want them directly, and Hasbro can make a little bit off the top of them versus trying to stick them in a Toys R Us, sell 5 or 6 of them per store, and then go, well, this didn't work.
See, there is something like that for G.I. Joe. It's
Also-
a G.I. Joe Collectors Club, but the problem with that is
It's not officially Hasbro.
It's not officially,
not officially Hasbro.
so therefore they set their prices that they want, and it's basically
And you
$40.
get to fight the aftermarket with it, because I'm sure
Right.
there's a lot of guys going on the aftermarket because of the people who can't hit a Toys R Us. Now they're going to pay 20, 30, 40 bucks for special figures versus why don't you just go to the subscription club, pay the 20 bucks, get your fancy figure, and then Hasbro can be happy. It's having their cake and eating it too. There's a lot in the process of starting a program like that and shoring up the numbers and making sure you can do it. But there are ways to do it.
Hasbro had they kind of had that set up before with Star Wars. They had that on their Star Wars shop that you could buy and go to the
Right, and we're seeing that in the comic book
Yeah, I
industry to sort of
remember
bring it
that.
back around.
Yeah, I
J.
mean-
Scott Campbell has his own storefront, but he has his own variants.
But Hasbro shop
Yeah, no.
also used to have it where you could pick up all these
and,
figures.
There are pros and cons to it too, but I prefer a system like that.
No,
And-
I understand that. The eye roll was for the fact that so many people, the marketing of it is not done to the point where the mass understands that image is only available in one spot.
Right.
I've had a number of people have come in like, where's the
Where's
wedding
this J.
cover
Scott
for?
Campbell variant?
Yeah, where's the
And they
wedding
don't realize
variant
it's a
for
store
ASM
exclusive.
number one?
Right.
Renew your vows number one. I'm like, it's a website exclusive. It's
To
not.
J. Scott
But the
Campbell.
same thing's happened with store variants. I got a lot of people
Yeah,
that
there
came
are
in
store
for
variants.
Star Wars a year ago.
Mike Turner had the same system.
Yeah.
He was one of the first that.
Oh,
Had
yeah.
This with Civil War, he had exclusive store variants for his Aspen website,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mind it because I actually do think that is a good way for people to get big name variants from people directly. And they're paying what it would, like the 1 in 20 price of $19.99 from him. And I mean, it's a system that I think works.
Do you think that if let's say the merger did happen,
Sure.
And they started selling off some of their properties.
Okay.
Do you think something like, let's say Marauders, for instance, has a chance to buy G.I. Joe?
Well, they would be able to afford it. You'd see something like Jack's Pacific or someone.
Okay,
buy it.
but,
I
but
could
what I'm
see
saying is,
Jack's
do you think
if
these smaller
Marauders was
companies...
going to do it, they would do a Kickstarter to try it. There's a lot of people who eye roll at Kickstarter and Indiegogo's now because there's a lot of people sort of taking advantage of the way those work.
Right, but no, I'm saying this as a hypothetical thing. As far as some of these properties,
Sure, anything
these
goes.
smaller companies, do you think that it could end up being more beneficial for them? Because something like, let's say Marauder, they could charge $15, $16 for a figure
Yeah.
and give you all the
you'd have to-
articulation that they have.
But you also have to remember what's the valuation on a brand like G.I. Joe. And what is not only what G.I. Joe is worth to the general public is film properties and comics and TV shows.
But just
but
brand recognition.
I'm just saying as a hypothetical thing. With if
then
Hasbro
I will
and
say
Mattel
sure.
started showing
I mean,
off
anything
some of
is
these.
possible.
Anything-
I mean, if Marauder
anything
wanted
to
to, and
get-
they could have a $5 million Kickstarter, and if that's the price Hasbro is putting out there for the property, they're going to have to just compete with the bigger names because I'm sure someone like Disney could easily come in and be like, oh, $5 million, yeah, here's chump change. And again, I'm throwing out random numbers, but the brand of G.I. Joe is worth a lot.
Do
What
you
the number
think Disney
is,
would buy their own properties back,
No, because Hasbro
or the
wouldn't sell them.
licensing?
I mean, the licensing, no, because then whatever. It's just,
Licensing is free money.
yeah,
Because
li-
Disney does. We see with their park exclusive things, they
Right.
make their own
They
product.
but they
too.
also they have specific companies manufacturing them for them. For the
Correct.
mass market, could Disney do it? Sure, they have the money to do it.
Do you think if this is
Will
plausible?
they? I don't know because they're basically being paid for somebody else to manufacture their figures for them.
Right. Do you think if this whole thing's plausible, what Chris was saying about how the internet seems to be going, well, why isn't Disney coming in and doing this? Do you think that if it came
Because-
out where this is coming out where they're let's
I
say
will- I will-
Hasbro is looking
I will
to
give
be
you a simple
purchased.
why. Because there's a lot that goes into figure manufacturing, and there's a lot that goes in. They mean, and here's the thing: Disney has their own licensing department,
Right.
That everybody needs to get approvals from them. Disney will help design figures and stuff like that. But then you have to move to the manufacturing end, and while Disney does have its hand in some manufacturing operations, on the scale that Hasbro has, sure, Disney could do it. They have the money and they have the manpower to engage in it.
I just
Could
don't
they
think
do
they'd
it?
want to.
Could they do it like they're doing with Marvel and Lucasfilm in them, and allow the company to run itself and just be the parent company?
Again, entirely possible, but Lucasfilm already had that division in place. What they paid for in Lucasfilm wasn't just film; they were paying for entire divisions that were completely self-sufficient.
and I'm saying, what if they did? If it's the same scenario, could they?
I-
Could Disney allow
I
a company that's already?
I do grant, yes, if Disney has the money to do it or to let another company they purchase to do it. Yes, it's entirely within the realm of possibility. Will they? I am not a soothsayer.
Do you think that?
Hold on. My argument for this is the same thing I said about the Fox properties for Disney. There's no reason. Disney could, yes. Disney could buy Hasbro and say, okay, you go do whatever you want to do.
Right.
But here's the thing. Disney is not a company that leaves its hands off, yes, until something goes wrong.
Correct.
Trust me, if Marvel Publishing, if all of a sudden 2017 Marvel Publishing is terrible,
Yeah,
don't think that someone from Disney is going to take over
Yeah,
that company,
if
put their
on the
hands
off
in the
chance.
cookie jar and start crumbling the
if-
cookies.
No, I
every
get it,
day.
I get it.
Hold on, let me
If
finish.
Marvel
let me finish.
suddenly tanked hard,
Yeah,
of
there's no.
course.
Why would you want to buy a company in terms of Hasbro who's already paying you millions of dollars simply for the right to build Avengers toys and Star Wars toys? You're already getting free money from them. That money now disappears, and you have to exit money. You have to exit money
Right.
from your company.
You have to remember
to
the
not
wor-
only
the
buy
workload
the company,
is also cut
you
down
have
too.
to buy the. You're in essence, you're,
You're
buying the
your license
property back.
Yes, I get. No,
They-
I get that. I'm just saying,
They
as
don't have a
hypothetical
problem
thing.
as long as people keep paying them for the license. They don't have a problem what the license does. Disney doesn't give two craps whether Marvel Avengers figures look like junk, which
Right.
they do. The stuff that we've seen for Civil War, oh God, those 3 3/4 are horrendously bad. But if they sell, what does Marvel care? Because Hasbro, as long as they sell, Hasbro next year is going to owe them more money. The Star Wars license, as it's set up by Disney, is ludicrously insane, and yet Hasbro keeps paying it.
Yes.
The reason there's a Star Wars movie every year, you owe them a percentage, not only up front, you owe them a percentage of what you actually make. because there's a movie in theaters in a calendar
and
year.
Right.
per title.
Exactly.
Well, I get it. It's if you want to do it in a very simple explanation, it's as long as Fox keeps making good X-Men movies, there's no reason for Disney to try to buy that property back. Something like Fantastic
Hold on.
Four.
I'm gonna change the thing. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. All that matters if
If it's
Fox
making money.
continues to believe it's worth paying Disney, Marvel, the money to keep the license. The only thing about Fantastic Four being bad that Disney would care about is that Fox next year goes, we're not renewing this license. We're not going to pay you $5 million for the right to make another
Piece of shit.
Fantastic Four movie.
Right.
We're just not going to do it anymore. This is what happened with Daredevil, Punisher, Ghost Rider. It wasn't that Marvel went to these companies or whoever owned them and said, we want that back. These companies said, we're not going to spend the money
We're
for
not
a
doing
license
anything
Right.
with them.
for a movie that's not going to exist.
It basically reverted back.
I suppose I suppose the one caveat to that was Daredevil, that they started production too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Fox had actually begun the wheels of production, but a week later,
I'm not saying that
somebody
Disney's
had missed
going
their
to
destiny.
mind getting that back,
Right.
but what do they need it for?
Right.
Why
They're
take the money
They're still making
away?
their money from it.
Yeah.
and-
Right.
But yes, and in the realm of hypotheticals and possibilities, sure, it's entirely possible. Disney has the money and the manpower and the resources to do it. But will they? That then
The
becomes
motivation to me is lacking.
is it worth doing it versus getting the money you're already making? Not to mention, are you being paid for these figures to be made by other companies? Basically saying like, hey Disney, I want to make these figures. Here's a couple $1,000,000. Then you get some off of what's already sold too.
Well, speaking of pieces of shit that keep getting made, Zack Snyder came out this week and said that true comic book fans will know he did not change Superman. And before everybody starts filling in, Mikey's been quiet. Mikey's a big Superman and comic book reader. Mikey,
I hate Superman.
you hate
I
you hate
hate the
Superman.
character Superman.
You hate the characters.
Yes. I do not like Superman.
I'm going to say
I
this.
like
I'm
his
going
look.
to say this. Maybe do some research before we start.
That
the
was,
show.
it was,
Maybe
it was
ask the question
sarcastic.
before.
It was a
The
sarcastic.
look on Mikey's
Oh
face
no, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
was great.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Do you feel that Zack Snyder changed Superman for the Man of Steel?
I enjoyed Man of Steel, except for the last bit where he's crying like a bitch and then he's all happy-go-lucky in front of the general. I was fine with Man of Steel, and to me, I didn't feel he changed the character. Now, if he has some mind control crap in Batman vs Superman, it's mind control. But if he's like that and he doesn't have mind control, then yeah, I'd say he changes it a little bit. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to go see that movie, so it doesn't matter.
Chris, you read my response to the article. What do you think?
I kind of want Mikey to keep speaking. That was fun.
Because I said that in my response on the article, whatever, I forget who had it up there, but
I think it was CBR.
yeah,
But I will say, sure. I'm gonna eye roll and go yes. You can pick out whatever story you want to get the Superman you want, and that is not what he said though. I mean, if he really wanted to have a dark brooding Superman, he could have picked any number of Superman stories where Superman's a total asshole and just murders people left and right, flying through buildings and orphanages and whatever.
Orphanages. Which comic book does he fly through an orphanage?
But yes, he did change he changed the perception of Superman because through Superman for 70 years has been, I would argue, very consistent in characterization for the most part. People have taken very good care that there's the reason why he's the Boy Scout.
do you think that he changed?
I think the
the
Boy Scout-
mainstream perception.
No, he didn't change the perception.
Because when you look at
No,
he
because
made-
if he changes the mainstream perception, then the backlash
No.
against that film doesn't exist.
No, the backlash of against the Superman movie and the characterization is very strong because there's a very good idea people have in their head about who Superman is, and throughout his film and television history, it's been very consistent, and even in his comic book characterization, the idea of the Boy Scout comes specifically from the Silver Age. But if you're going to look at the 70 years as a whole, he's a guy trying to do the right thing, and this is a Superman who very clearly is a guy doesn't really care about doing the right thing. He's doing it because he feels some bizarre obligation to it, and the movie, him saving people in the movie feels like a chore, and that comes across like, oh, I gotta save you
Fuck,
people
I
here.
gotta go save this orphanage.
What's
Right.
that? What's
Can't
that,
I just
Dad?
fly through it?
Wait, Dad, should I save the busload of kids? No, son.
No, son.
Let them drown.
Yeah, exactly.
In
And
terms of changing, no. Does he change the character? I think he changes a lot of the motivation for that character.
Yes.
And I don't. If you want to change something, then make changes. The first X-Men film, they changed the uniforms. They changed Wolverine's height. It worked because it was a good, fun film. He changed whatever he wanted to change. Doesn't necessarily change the fact that movie's terrible.
Yes.
In my eyes, that movie's terrible. If it's fixated on him killing Zod, here's my problem. The basis that they're going to use on that is the John Byrne story in which he kills Zod.
Zod,
Right?
yeah.
There's so much that leads up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a 2-hour film in which Zod's in it for 15 minutes.
Right.
There's so much else going on in that film. If this was the third film and he had spent 2.5 films
trying to kill
Fighting
Zod.
trying to save everybody,
Right.
trying to figure out a different way, and Zod finally pushes him over the edge, then I would buy that that's very much in tone, in character, in spirit for what John Byrne
Right.
did. That's not what's here. He doesn't earn that death.
Right.
Right.
He doesn't earn the right to kill him and have that affect him in any sort of way. It's the very first thing he does. He's on the scene for days. His entire city gets destroyed. As we've seen in Batman vs. Superman, those buildings are not evacuated.
No.
The way the story is set up is really stupid. I'm going to go fight that octopus thing while Zod just destroys half the city. Well, if you stop Zod's ship, the octopus thing doesn't do anything.
Right.
And it's in an unpopulated area. No, I'm going to go stop that first because of things.
Reasons.
Yeah, because of reasons for tension. The story's not set up well to give any sort of. There's tons of time to get rid of some of those people.
I have because a lot of people a lot of people who want to defend that movie will point to the singular that one page from Byrne's run, but they don't provide any context. And
They don't provide the 20 issues before that.
beforehand,
It
where
was 21,
Zod
wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the
Where Zod is
60 years before that in which that character exists. The thing with
Right.
Superman as a character, and I've said this a number
And even
of
then,
times.
he's not killing the regular Zod. He's killing an alternate universe version
Exactly.
of Zod.
Right.
So it's not even that Earth's Zod. He goes to another planet, sees Zod has ruled, and is like, I think
And
this
isn't Zod even isn't Zod like he's been convicted or something?
right.
Something along those lines of he's like given the death penalty by whatever universe
He's
in.
now in, and
And
then
he
Superman's
ends up
like,
being the
I have the
executioner.
only thing that you can use
Yeah.
to kill him.
Exactly. The thing with Superman, and this is why it's actually kind of funny. It's Friday. We had a couple of kids in the store, and these like middle-aged kids. There was one kid who at least 13 times in the course of the 40
Middle-aged kids.
middle-aged kids, middle school kids. Sorry, middle school age children. That's what I was.
That is middle age for
Yeah, that is.
teenagers.
Just a teenager. This kid at least in 40 minutes, at least 13 times said he hated Superman. Because like Superman's invulnerable and you can't kill him, and he's a big Deadpool fan. And I finally said, "You realize that Marvel has made Deadpool much harder to kill than Superman ever was. Technically, you could drown Superman. He still has to breathe oxygen.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, Deadpool had his head cut off, and somebody carried it around for 4 issues.
Yeah.
You can't kill him. He's impossible. So he just kind of looked at me with those vacant eyes. I'm like, okay, continue to buy your Deadpool crap. The thing with Superman, as I've said a lot of times, is the joy in Superman is that he has to be right every time. That's because if he's wrong, everyone on the planet would find a way to kill him immediately.
Right.
This whole
Correct.
movie is predicated on this idea that he did something wrong, and that Batman would stop him. In the book,
The now
in
Punisher
the book,
Batman.
Clark
Yes.
gives him the kryptonite bullet. He looks at Bruce and says, "I trust you to stop me should something happen. If somebody takes over my mind and I'm going to rip the world in half,
Here's a
I
kryptonite
expect
ring."
you to put the ring, the bullet, whatever you want, right between my eyes and kill me. Get
Yeah.
this over with. Don't let me kill anybody." He has to make the right decision, and that's what makes him so great. To me, I don't want the relatability. F relatability.
Well, Superman to me has always been
Superman is awesome.
if he lets a single person die,
The-
he's failed.
The
Yes.
meme that they've said, you wake up one morning and you're Superman. What's your greatest wish? And it's like to be Batman. And then the first person that was like, "Oh yes, because if I woke up with the powers of a god, the first thing I'd want to do is a depressed multi-billionaire who runs around at night in a costume beating people up." Like we should want to be Superman.
Right.
I'd love to.
Superman.
He's perfect, and that's great.
He's because he's aspirational and he's inspirational. Not so much for the powers. Everyone looks at the powers and sees like, oh,
what he does with
He's yes, exactly.
Or it's
Morrison-
look at Clark.
But it's also who he is as a person. And my biggest issue is that like there's in Man of Steel, there's one moment where one of the Kryptonians throws a gasoline big rig at him, and there's people behind him sort of staring like, oh my god, fight going on, and Superman just kind of
Get it on YouTube.
tilts his head and lets the tanker hit all those people and explode. He is chasing Zod and he flies right through a Sears, killing people. He goes through skyscrapers, and that's the thing is like I would understand relatability if there was something like, okay, if Zod is going to fly through the building, have Superman catch people as he's crashing through it, or have Superman be the one to go around buildings. Then I can see some semblance.
I think we talked
of
about it. The
caring.
attempt to move the fight,
Yes.
and Zod keeps bringing it back.
Well, not even that.
Then
Superman
that's what I mean.
punches him into space,
And then brings him back,
and then
right.
Superman punches him back
Back
down
down.
to Earth,
Yeah,
Which
and
causes
if
even
you
more
take him-
damage.
It's
if
like,
you
you
take him
dumb beaver, what the hell are
as
you doing?
terrible
You
and
dumb
horrible,
beaver.
dumb beaver, as
Dumb
terrible
beaver.
and horrible as the quest for peace was, Superman 4. At least he takes the fight to the moon.
Right.
I'm not going to fight Nuke Man on the middle of the planet where
Oh,
he can
that's
kill
right, it was
everybody.
Nuke
Yeah, fight Zod in the middle of the desert in China. Fight Zod in the middle of the plains of
And
America.
if Zod keeps escaping and runs back
Take
to
him back.
to
the
whatever,
fight
if
to the
that's
middle
what
of
the
the
fight
ocean.
is, he keeps coming back to Metropolis. Like, you're going to fight me here. You're not going to fight me anywhere
Right.
else.
I want you to
then
fight me.
I
too.
I
can
would buy
understand.
him killing him. At
Because
that
see, here's
point.
the
It's
thing.
like, what am I
Here's the
supposed
other
to
thing
do?
is, if Zod keeps bringing him back into a populated area and forcing Superman's hand, as you just said, you leave him no choice.
Right, but no, he doesn't do that. The perfect example is Superman punches him into space and then just grabs him by the cape and throws him back down to Earth. It's like,
because reasons.
like, you're in space.
It looks
You can put him anywhere.
You
Shoot
have
him
now
towards the
just
sun.
learned you can fight in space, and you choose not to fight in
That'd
the
be
least
great.
populated area.
He flies up there. Oh, I can fight in space. Kick ass.
And then
Like I said-
but then he chooses not to continue the fight in space, which is absolutely ridiculous.
I'm homesick already. Let's go back.
Like I said,
And then he goes right. Then with Earth's rotation be damned, fight is able to push him back down into Metropolis.
like I said in this basically a dear Zack Snyder
Because
thing.
here's the thing: is because there is like, if you like the movie, fine. I'm not here to piss on anybody's parade, but there is no good defense of the movie from a subjective film construction standpoint. There
Well,
just isn't,
no.
and I'm sorry. There is a reason why the movie is not well loved. If you loved it, fine, but then you sort of have to give ground and go, there's just too many plot holes to say that the story is well constructed and that he's a relatable character because of
He's British.
reasons.
Like I said, there, from
Because
the
his daddy
cinematography
we could
to
have very
the,
easily saved.
to the
his father, he could have
overexposure
saved with
of-
his powers, and then and people goes like, no, but he had to do it as a and then moments later he talks to Lois Lane and goes, I had to let my father die. It's like, oh, so you could have saved him. There's a big difference between I could save my dad and I couldn't versus like, I had a chance but I didn't.
Look,
This overpass is cool. I can
Yeah.
go back for the dog.
I said that there was far more things to worry about than if he changed Superman. The cinematography, the very bad MacGuffin,
It's all Snyder-esque.
the overexposure of product placement. There was just
sepia
way
tones.
too.
Yeah,
Yes.
He fights through a Sears, and you know how I know it's a Sears? Because I saw the sign that said Sears.
and then everything in it was Sears, and then they hit a 7-Eleven,
They hit
and
a
then they hit a
7-Eleven.
Pepsi truck,
Yes.
and then they hit something else. I mean, it was just like, here's all of our product placement right
Yes.
now.
And I get it.
Hey, look, Superman's on TV.
I understand that you need product placement, but
Very subtle gold Superman.
for me, it's that it's the ridiculous nature of the one the one thing that bothers me the most in a movie like Iron Man is he gets out of the limousine and he's like, I want a burger.
Yeah.
And then he holds the bag of Burger King burgers to
I want
the
a
camera.
Burger King burger.
Yeah,
you
it's
can
like-
have
it's
any
really?
fucking burger you
You've been-
want.
You've been tortured by radicals in the Middle East, and the first burger you want is Burger King burger.
Well, he can't really afford anything else.
But it's
Five
one of
Guys
those
is
nice
expensive.
Burger King burgers because it's
Yeah.
the one in the ad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
So
he
it's
holds it
not
with
the
the
one
two
that's
fingers
actually
and he
from
just
a-
looks it up like a Whopper Supreme. That's
I
exactly
suddenly
what Tony
question
Stark
the intelligence
eats.
of Tony Stark if his first choice is a Burger King burger.
Well, he
The
also
best
gets his
product-
company ripped out from under him from a guy he's been
Yes.
known for 40 years.
The best product placement in a movie is Jurassic World, by far. They give them they do it in a satirical way.
It's understandable product placement, and yes, it's satirical, but it's also something that detracts from the story when they do go overboard with it, especially because it's not the visitor center. It's Samsung presents the Jurassic Park Visitor Center.
But going to Disneyland and all these other theme parks, you know that.
Disneyland-
Disneyland's not as much now.
No, Disneyland
They
is the
were
bad
for a
example
little
of that
bit.
now.
They-
Yes,
they-
a long time ago when
right.
they needed money to pay for things. But nowadays, that's not necessarily the case.
But they
Except
had.
for what is it like is the fireworks spectacular presented by Honda or something like
Yes.
that?
Yes.
And as soon as the first time I heard that, this sort of like, why the f does Disney need Honda to
Right.
support its effing fireworks?
I
If
kind of look at that and I
Disney is
go,
like, you know
I
what,
think
we can't
Honda's the one
afford.
needing help.
Yeah, I
here.
think Honda's like, hey, we'll pay for the fireworks, and Bob Iger's like, whatever,
Sure.
I don't care.
Well, since they do it every
Yeah,
night,
I mean, sure, like the Margaritaville was like a good joke in that. I get
Yeah.
that, but then it's one of the things like Verizon Wireless presents the Indominus Rex. It's like,
the Pepsi Saurus. Come on.
yeah, and I go like, it's like you
want
go
a
to
Pepsi-Saurus.
real zoos, and that doesn't happen.
But
And
look at Six Flags. Six Flags.
yes,
is-
but
Well,
Jurassic,
zoos present. I mean, it's not as blatant.
Jurassic Park is a zoo first, not an amusement park. And that's the thing is like, yes,
Well,
there-
that might be some of that's actually part of the satire. Is that
That
it's
is part of the
treated as an
satire.
amusement park?
Right.
Because look at you're allowing children to watch a T-Rex eat a live goat.
Right.
That doesn't happen at the
No,
LA Zoo.
no,
You
It
know what?
happens
You're getting-
in Europe apparently, but it doesn't happen.
You're
here.
getting chased by dinosaurs. All right. There's a
Right.
thrill ride for you.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a little bit of it. If you go to a zoo, there is
There are
certain
some things
exhibits
like
and
that,
stuff
like
that, but it's
Coca-Cola
usually
sponsorships
Yeah,
and
but
stuff.
it's more subtle. It's just
Yes.
like the Tiger Park is built and there's a little Coke symbol on the
yeah,
bottom.
like
of the Tiger
Coke
Park
helped
or
pay
whatever.
for this, but they don't
Yeah.
call it the
Coca-Saurus.
They don't call it the
Coca
Coker-
Tiger.
The
Coke
Coca
Tiger.
Cola.
Yeah, the Coca-Cola.
Yeah, once they get to the point like this tiger's name is something in Indian,
Samsung.
and then this tiger's name is Pepsi Max.
Tony
Yes.
the Tiger, presented by Frosted Flakes.
Exactly.
Presented by Kellogg.
This is Tony the Tiger, and the box that he's tearing apart for animal enrichment to get his pieces of food is a Frosted Flakes box.
The tiger stops and goes, "It's great." So
Queequeg the Tiger says, "Buy Frosted Flakes. They're great." Again,
speaking of
which
potential
is
great
basically
things,
what they did in Jurassic World. And as somebody who volunteered at the LA Zoo for 4 years, I go, I roll because I go like, okay, I get.
There are sometimes I wonder why Sebastian's eyes aren't in the back of his head permanently.
Like
And
they've
then,
just completely
it's
rolled
a
back
it's a
there.
conscious thought to bring them forward.
One day you'll see me sitting in a chair and I'll turn around and they'll just be white.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh
If
my
you
God,
ever
what
have a
happened?
seizure, we're
I-
screwed. We can't
my
tell the
eyes,
difference.
they
We look
got
like,
stuck
I think
back
Sebastian's
there.
having a seizure. No, he just thought about Ghostbusters again.
My eyes, they roll back into my head. I can't
Well-
get them back.
let's see how bad they roll into the back of his head on this one. William Shatner has now come out and said he's ready to play Old Bill.
No, he said it this. I
I'm ready.
I'm ready to play.
want to play Old Bill.
What do you
Captain
think?
James D. Kirk.
Do we need Kirk to come back to be old
He was
Kirk?
supposed to be like he was supposed. Here's the thing: is that for the first 2 movies, he's gone. Well, they never asked me, and he's always said, "They want me, sure, whatever."
Right.
Because it was supposed to be a scene in the original movie that was written was old Spock with a hologram because it's Star Wars, the movie, with a hologram of
It's a hollow deck. Come
no,
on,
no,
there's
no,
a holograms
to,
in it.
It was supposed to be a handheld hologram of Jim wishing him a happy birthday, like one of the last sort of keepsakes he has. And I goes like, okay, whatever. That would be stupid. It's not necessary.
It was William Shatner.
That would have ruined the movie for you.
It was
No, it wouldn't have
was-
ruined the movie, but it would also been like these characters are already, even the Spock is already so different.
It was Kirk at his funeral.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be like even the
So
You're
you're not a fan of Spock and Uhura in a hot, steamy relationship
no
with a man who has no logical reason to seek out companionship from a female?
Well, no, because
Like
he already
that?
had his wife on Vulcan, and they didn't discuss that either because continuity from before.
Reasons.
Yeah, for reasons. But I
Do
also
you
goes
think
like,
Star-
no, I saw Star Trek V. Him and it's Scotty and Uhura. So I'll have you know, the Spock and Uhura does not work for
I
me.
miss that.
Yeah, they having relationships. They're going to dinner. It's very subtle in the movie, but they spend a lot of time together in the films.
I gotta go back and watch that one.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. If you're going to watch Star Trek V, you just need the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes when they're camping, which is easily the best written stuff in that. movie.
I'm so mad that that's in that film,
Right.
Rather
And-
than
and
like
not
6
Star
or
Trek
something.
6,
You
yeah.
know, because that it definitely felt like, well, this is gonna be the last one and all of this, and we're gonna let Bill direct it. Oh, why do we do this?
Because in his clause,
And the one
because
where they flipped it.
in his clause, like, oh, if Leonard
If
gets
Leonard
to
gets
direct,
to.
then I get my chance.
That is a great story too. The way that
Yes.
they flipped that script.
But no,
'cause it was-
do I need no? Because the characterization of old Spock in those Star Trek movies is already so vastly different from the old Spock from Next Gen as they present him that it's
That's
not
what we
even the
talked
same
about
character.
yesterday.
It's not even the same character, and it's one of those things like you're just going to write like a more douchey Captain Kirk. Then I don't need it. Sure, will people go see it because of that? Yeah.
Do you think,
I don't know if
do you
anyone
think
would
your
go see
average
it if
Star
he's in
Trek
it.
fan wants him to come back or needs him to?
No,
Well, let me ask
the
you
average
this.
Star Trek
What-
fan doesn't care for those
What
movies
if
already.
they put? What if they put
Chewie?
Kirk? Yes, they put Chewie. What if they put Kirk in that TV series that may take place in the original universe?
Then what do they? I mean, it depends on how they do it. I mean, there are ways you could do it. Like, I mean, there's that great episode of
He is
Star
Yeah,
Trek.
because
Next
he doesn't.
Generation.
He obviously doesn't die.
He's in
He
charge
dies in
of
Next Gen.
Starfleet.
Well, he dies in Next Gen, but
But
I
it's
mean,
way down the line.
Well, I
You
mean,
can-
because he died.
right?
Well, no, because he's stuck in the Nexus.
Right. He
And
dies.
He
at
dies
the
on
B.
that
Okay.
planet in the Next Generation time period. But you could do something easily like. There is the episode where they find Scotty in the transporter, and I'm not saying that's the out, but I'm saying that then he goes on the Enterprise
Seal
D,
is still
and
a
he goes
thing?
to the holodeck, and he wants to see the original bridge.
Right.
There's the last episode of Enterprise, where you see Riker experiencing the last voyage of Captain Archer and how he becomes admiral, and then the signing of the Federation Charter. So there are ways to do it.
Did Riker eat all of the food out of
Yes,
the thing?
He
at the
did.
time?
Actually, he did pose himself as the chef of the Enterprise in one of the scenes, and then as one of the Mako officers. But Miriana Sirtis came back for that episode, and Brent
Yeah.
Spiner provided the voice of Data for the scenes because it takes place in the middle of the episode Pegasus, the Next Gen episode about the cloaking device, and he's looking for he's trying to find out how the greats before him would handle a situation like
Right.
that, and they're focusing on the Enterprise crew from the
I gotta go
NX-01.
back. I don't remember that one.
It's a great episode. It's
This is the last episode of Enterprise?
it is the last episode. It's and it's one of those things like if you're gonna do like a holodeck simulation or whatever, you wanna have a talk with Kirk. You could have a talk with the holodeck Kirk.
I could
It's-
see
it's
them
like
even
a
go so
holocron.
far as to do, Kirk as an admiral with the I don't know, because it's the first voyage of the B in Next Gen, isn't it?
yeah, when he
Yeah,
officially
never mind.
dies, and then he
Yeah, when he would die in the timeline.
yeah, and then when he dies when he actually is killed, he dies in the Next Gen timeline. But he's
He's
only
hasn't had
around
any
for
presence,
another
right.
hour and he's dead.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of if you based the series on the B
You could do that.
and had him be an admiral, but you can't because he would have been dead before
Right.
the B. So never mind. The A
just
plus.
bring Sulu back as a character because
Oh
they did
my.
that for Voyager. They had his daughter on the Enterprise B as the helmsman.
Oh
So,
my.
there's ways. If they're
Yeah.
the
Can I
easiest,
come back as a gay captain? Oh,
That's it. He comes back.
They've
and he
never.
discovers-
I don't think they've ever officially said who his wife was in the show, but he does have a daughter. So
Uh-huh.
in Generations, they show her. So there's outs for me. The holodeck is the easiest out to what would Captain Kirk do? Boom, you go in the holodeck, have a chat with Captain Kirk. I mean, they did it with a whole bunch of characters over the course of the show. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, there are outs. Do I need it? No, I don't need it.
Moriarty came out into the real world.
Right. I mean, but then even then, Data played poker with
Uh-huh.
with Isaac Newton
Yep.
and Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking, and there are ways.
Which that was actually Hawking.
Yes, it was, and he got a tour of the set, and he was very, very happy and appreciative.
He's done
Because
that
one
a
story
number of
from it
times.
is he goes. I think they take him to the engine room set, and he's like, "I'm actually working on one of those," and it's like, "Oh, very cool."
Yeah. So Marvel Comics doubled up on DC in October.
Good
What
for
do you
them. No,
hence Rebirth.
I say good for them, but I also go but a lot of there's a lot of anecdotal stories about both Marvel and DC not doing well. So that makes me happy to hear, just in general, that Marvel seems to be doing well. I mean,
Marvel is doing better in a relative term. but
yes, DC.
But
will-
It's not.
DC
It's not as
did
bad as some of
DC
the
have
anecdotal
a-
stuff is said, but it's definitely.
That's why
you've seen the stuff on CBR with other retailers. I'm not ordering DC anymore.
right. That's why I prefaced with anecdotal, because anecdotal evidence.
I mean, that's also the same problem is the thing that they had put on about Rebirth and stuff like that, and they interviewed it was either CBR or Newsroom or whatever. Interviewed a couple of different like shop owners and people that work for it, and like I'm not ordering. I'm just going to order for the rack. I want to sell through by Saturday. Like,
Right.
That's 4 owners out of a couple of hundred shops.
Right.
You know, so it's different. It depends on where you are and that sort of thing. Is it DC isn't doing as well as they want to? There's no way to argue against that.
Right.
But DC also didn't have a major
I'm
event
sure.
going on.
And
Well, no, they had Dark Knight. The problem
and
was is it didn't ship.
yeah,
Right.
and from the wider perspective, comics are not doing as well as I'm sure a lot of companies would like them. I mean, when 200,000 is really your kind of that max
Well, the thing
level.
with that's a bit of a misnomer too. And this
It is,
something
it
that
is.
you explain with someone is the variety that's there is so different.
Yes.
At the same time, what you're saying, X-Men doesn't sell nearly as it did in 1991. But there
Exactly.
also wasn't Walking Dead, Saga, Black Science, Manifest Destiny, anything from Dark Horse that would sell in the numbers that some of their smaller titles would even sell.
Yes, yeah.
So there's a lot more that's out
There-
there. If
yes,
you
there's a
take
lot more
if you
product.
take the pie, the whole pie, it's not much different. The difference is the slices are
Yes.
much smaller because there's so much else that's out there, and everything takes away. The money being spent is equivalent because everything's more expensive.
Right.
The
It's the
amount of
inflation.
stuff that's out there, each individual title isn't going to have as much. The same thing as
No.
TV. You're never going to see somebody
Yeah, and
watch the last episode of something like MASH in those numbers simply because there's just too much TV.
right? And we've talked about it with movies too, especially with the inflation. Is that comic books are making around the same amount of money as they used to be, but for sure the price of admission has gone up for that, and people have cut down their lists and they're being more targeted with what they buy.
What?
Snap is like a gunshot.
So yeah, I mean, all companies want to be doing better
what do you need
regardless.
a GoPro for?
Zion.
I didn't realize you were going to the motherland.
Yes.
He's going home to Israel.
Going to the. That would be Ethan, not me.
Apparently, it's you.
My motherland would be Rome.
And
So,
that's
anyways,
Zion.
we kind of just went dead there.
I'm a Sony Action Cam man, so I'm staying out of this.
Oh, he's reading The Choice by Nicholas Sparks too.
That would be
Wow.
bad.
He's he's a quarter of the way through. Went to the library to pick it up.
I told her.
Ooh.
That.
Hmm.
Is that based off the new movie that's coming out or something? Or is it
You
there's-
should know. You're the one reading it.
The movie's based off the book.
Well, you know what I meant.
I
I told
said
Beth-
that exactly at the same time.
I saw the trailer for it. And I told Beth the whole plot, and she got mad at me because I ruined the book. Apparently. So PlayStation. Here's something. They came out and they just said PlayStation. The PlayStation numbers have doubled Xbox, and it's like
Yeah.
such a big event. No, it's not. Because here's the thing: Sony it sells more PlayStations in Europe and Asia, than there are in the entire than Xbox ever could possibly sell.
Here's why it is.
They sell more in Japan.
Did you link through the article?
I've read.
Okay.
So,
The reason that it is because Microsoft was touting their numbers and then all of a sudden went silent for
Right.
the last 2 years. That's where the story really is. Microsoft's like, look, we're right up there. We're getting our ass handed to us. We're not
Right.
going to say anything anymore.
And it's different markets. The Xbox One does really well in the United States versus overseas, especially in the Asian territories where PlayStation. And that's fine. I think both companies are being more vocal about their numbers now than they ever have been because build your own PCs are starting to slowly cannibalize the console market.
yeah.
Exclusivity is slowly becoming a thing of the past. When the decision for me became like PlayStation or Xbox, bought an Xbox because I like the Halo games and they're still exclusive. But things like Metal Gear Solid.
Once GTA went over to what did Sony have? It used to be-
Metal Gear Solid was the big one.
Yeah.
They had Kingdom Hearts was another huge franchise. Final Fantasy,
God of War.
maybe going multi-platform as well. So that's
Well, that was it. The last Final Fantasy that would be exclusive was the last one that came out, and they
Right.
said that. This was announced a couple years ago, that after that last one, which is what 12 or 13 or
I
something,
think it was 14.
or whichever the last one
No,
was.
because there's an MMO as well, so the numbers are a little weird.
Right.
But no, exclusivity is a big thing. And for me, the decision game is like, well, Halo, and I still like Halo. Otherwise, all the other games I'm gonna want to play are gonna go multi-platform anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. But Xbox took a big hit in being $100 more expensive at launch. That's changed now, but They also took a big backlash originally because they were going to do some DRM stuff where you had to be always on, and they changed that eventually.
Then the whole backwards compatibility,
right?
And then
they took a lot of early hits from the perception from consumers, which eventually did change. But that hurt them. That didn't give them a running start. So
to me, I'm looking.
I'm platform agnostic. I don't really care as long as you're playing games and having fun, whatever.
Right. Yeah, I'm basically the same way. I would. I don't have a PlayStation right now, but that's not because there's games I want to play.
Yeah. And then most of the games that I wanted to play that would have been PlayStation exclusives 5 years ago, it's simply not the case anymore. So.
Yeah, I mean, even Kingdom Hearts, the next Kingdom Hearts is
multi-platform. Metal Gear Solid, which is traditionally a Sony exclusive, is now multi-platform. So it's...
But when you look at these numbers, and and yes, it is, they are selling double, but more than a third of that, maybe even 2/3 of that, is straight from Japan numbers.
Right, but that's what matters because Xbox has never done well in
They've
Asia.
never been able to break that market at all.
PlayStation was straight from Japan.
Yeah, and so for me, like, the numbers don't mean anything. Especially, it's like, no, the PC market is slowly cannibalizing console market because for that $500 entry fee for an Xbox One or that $400 fee for a PlayStation, you could build a fairly decent gaming PC yourself, or spend a little bit extra and go that extra mile for a slightly better graphical experience, or whatever. And that's becoming the big factor, is that a long time ago, consoles were basically the best way to play games.
Yes.
And that's not true anymore.
Well, as soon as you were able to put a PC up on your screen, on your big television, that really changed things.
But that's really happened in sort of the last decade, where the computers have surpassed consoles.
Do you think something like World of Warcraft has helped that move along?
I think a lot. The MMOs were
because that gets people more familiar with it.
It does. I think that's entirely plausible. That's part of the reason why PCs took a big push a couple of years ago. But for the most part, I mean, you look at the Xbox and PlayStation, they're using 2- and 3-year-old chipsets.
Mm-hmm.
They're using 4-year-old graphics cards because it saves money to get that price, so they can have their high profit margins. And it's one of those things like. It's slowly becoming not enough.
Right.
Steam just released their Steam box where you can have your PC in your office and then do your. It looks like an Apple TV. Just hook it up to your television, hook it up to your Wi-Fi, and you can stream your games directly to your television.
It's basically like Sony has a buddy of mine has it. There's no latency. You can buy the Steam controller, which works really well, and you've essentially got your console, and it costs like $100. Yeah,
$150 if you want it with a controller.
Sony has their PlayStation Stream, which is now it's even coming on some smart TVs too.
Right, it is, but you still need a console.
You still need the console, yes.
And again, that's different. There's a different.
But it's never going to be as fast or
right. It's never going to be as fast or as powerful. It's not going to have the good frame rates. So I mean, that's for me is the thing is like the numbers now are not the same as the numbers for the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360 and even the PlayStation 3. It's just not hitting those numbers anymore. They're doing well for sure, but times are changing.
Yep. So on that note, we're going to wrap things up because we need to get to a Super Bowl party. Next week is going to be kind of interesting. We will be back with the Walking Dead cast again. Ethan will have the chance to speak because
cast?
There's the cast coming here.
The cast is coming here.
That's awesome. We've got to get some autographs.
That would be so much more awesome.
That would be so.
Coral, son, my shit. Get out of the room, Coral.
All right, make sure you check us out on Facebook.com/Nerdables. We're also on Twitter @NerdablesShow, and we'll see you next week.
Coral.
Oh my God.